It's that time again. September, which brings out about a whole new set of Sonic games for me to play and talk about. So without further ado, let me move on to introducing the first game of this year. Sonic Riders Zero Gravity on PS2. Actually, before I get to that, yeah, I know Sonic Mania just came out. Yeah, I hear it's the best Sonic game ever. And yeah, I really do want to play it. But we'll see if I have time after this year's 4 games to squeeze it in. So, no guarantees, but I'll see what I can do. Anywho, back to Zero Gravity. It's a racing game with an arcade style. As always, we're first given a pretty impressive video showing the story of the game. It looks like Sonic and pals were practically on vacation when an object falls out of the skies, causing all of the robots in this city to go haywire. Of course, the 3 heroes of the game, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, stick around to find the cause, but eventually they run into the Babylon Rogues, who act almost as the villains of the game at the start, but then party up with the heroes near the end. Basically, you play as the main heroes first, and then once you clear those stages, you'll be thrown to their side to see the story from their point of view. After these levels are cleared, you're done with the game, unless you want to do all the side crap. But before you're thrusted into the actual game, you do get to play a tutorial to learn all of the mechanics of the racing. It'll cover things such as drifting, boosting, and powering up your abilities. If you've ever played any racing game, especially modern ones, you'll know what drifting is. But if you don't, it's the act of sliding around corners without losing too much speed. It's not entirely useful in the first few races, but maybe that's because I wasn't that good at it. But in later races, you'll practically need it, as the guardrails won't always save you from falling out of bounds. And if you actually want to brake to slow down instead of drifting, you'll probably lose a few positions. So before I get into boosting and your abilities, let me elaborate on the drifting. To be technical, in this game it's called gravity control. Here's the basics on how it works. Once you get near a turn that you want to drift around, you press and hold the square button. The camera will lock into place, and you'll have to spin your racer into the direction that you're going to want to be heading in. You only have a limited time to rearrange your character, and if you fail, you'll just stop dead in your tracks, forcing you to accelerate on your own. But if you do succeed, once you let go of square, you'll be propelled into the direction that you point yourself to. It will probably take you a few attempts to practice this, even after the tutorial stage, but it is really essential that you master this technique. Let's move on to the boosting. You'll see the gauge on the bottom left corner of the screen, called the gravity point, or GP meter. This is kind of like the boost gauge, but things act a bit different in this game. As you find rings, perform tricks, and really just race well, your boost will increase. When you wish to use this gravity boost, you press R1 and L1 at the same time. This will momentarily cause your racer to lift off the ground, but then they'll just accelerate forward. This is more useful during areas with long straightaways, as you can accidentally careen off the track if you're not careful. There's another reason to use this on long straight paths though. This gravity boost ability makes gravity practically disappear, allowing objects to just float around you. By colliding with these objects, it does the exact opposite of what you'd expect. You actually gain more speed and even increase your GP meter by colliding with debris. By ricocheting off all the crap laying around, you can easily overtake any racers in your path. Now onto the abilities. See these 3 icons in the top left? Each racer has a different gear, or board, that has its own set of gear parts. Each part allows you to partake in different portions of each track. Some tracks have rails that have to be grinded, springs that can be bounced off of, and obstacles that can be destroyed. In order to do so, you have to have the appropriate gear part available, and then collect enough rings so that you can unlock the ability of that gear part. This is done by pressing triangle when that gear part shows the triangle icon. Once you do this, you can then use that ability. Upon saying that, I can't say that I've used these a lot, because they often require precise accuracy when trying to get to those parts of the track. So yes, you have all of these tools at your disposal, but the controls can still be frustrating. The drifting uses GP, and if you run out when trying to steer in the right direction, you'll just end up going the wrong way. The abilities just feel like gimmicks that are completely unnecessary, existing only to try to give the game its own sense of uniqueness. Yet there is one thing that really disappoints me. There are no reverse options. None. I tried every button available. At the same time, you don't press any button to accelerate. This is done automatically. You only need to press circle to slow down. But if you're at a stop and press circle some more, you don't reverse. Instead, you just turn around. This can lead to an immediate loss if you smash into a rail and can't turn around properly. Completely bullshit in my opinion. There should be no time in any racing game where you can't freaking reverse out of a bad spot. So, why are you racing? Well, there's some semblance of a plot thrown in here, but it's just for a what the hey kind of feel. Because let's face it, you really need a story in a racing game. I'm not going to dwell on it too much. It's boring, it's disjointed, and just truthfully not very interesting. In my opinion, Sega should just have put a story at like, there's a tournament going on with a prize of 1,000,000 rings for the winner. That would have sufficed for a story. As for the tracks, each one has a mission you must accomplish to move the story on. Typically, these range from either finish in first or complete 3 laps within a certain time frame. But why does this need to be part of a story? It's completely unnecessary. And to put insult to injury, there's only about 16 total stages. 8 for the heroes, 8 for the other guys. Each race is over in about 5 minutes. So let's do the math. That's about 80 minutes of gameplay for a game that you may have paid full price for. Thankfully, I only paid $9, but I still feel ripped off. I guess there is more that you can do though. After you clear a track, you unlock a small set of secondary missions. This is under the guise that Robotnik is analyzing your abilities. Again, it makes no sense to me, and it's all the same stuff you did in story mode. So I can't imagine anyone completing all of these unless you really are a sucker for completing games 100% though. There's also a shop in the game that you can use to unlock more gears. But the prices of these gears are astronomical and would require playing the game hours upon hours upon hours. Let me put it to you this way. Some of these items require thousands of rings. Although you can collect many during races, only 100 can be taken, since this is the max you can carry throughout the races. So for a basic gear costing 1,000 rings, you need to race and end with 100 rings 10 times. That's almost an hour of playing. And some of the items cost 10,000 rings. No thank you. Sound-wise, there's really nothing to brag about. Some of the songs are catchy, but once you activate any of the gravity techniques, the song changes to a generic theme. Then the track's song resets. It's a stupid design choice I don't agree with. At least the voiceovers are pretty good. Graphically, I can't complain. The tracks do look pretty well designed, with bright, vibrant colors. Of course, there are a few, like the one cavern stage, that's pretty bland, but most of the tracks have a nice look to them. Plus, I really love the water effects in the aquatic capital. Probably my favorite track, to be honest. Oh, and there is a boss battle. But its implementation is so lame that I really don't want to talk about it. But I should, because if I don't, I'd be a slacker. Basically, you're playing as Sonic, who is taking on a huge mechanical creature. You just need to get enough of your GP boost to do the gravity dive, jump off of the crap floating around, and then collide with the creature. Do this a few times and the game is over. Yeah, why did they even bother? Overall, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity just feels like a cheap Sega cash-in to try making a crappy racing game using Sonic characters. Truth be told, I did enjoy it for a few races once I got the controls down, but even so, I got bored fairly quickly afterwards. I kinda want to compare it with the fighting game The Bouncer. Both games have lengthy cutscenes that are well done, but gameplay-wise, lack substance. But The Bouncer was an early PS2 game and that one was fun. This one came out in January of 2008. There's no excuse. And don't give me that crap that the shop or missions add extra content, because it sure as hell doesn't in my book. But if you want a good Sonic racing game, I'll recommend one next week. Final score? 5 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.